Real quickly, it looks as though this law, as we speak today, is designed in such a way that the integrity of INEC is already destroyed. And it's a law that has been made to favor the political class. And with a law that constantly gives the presiding officers the power of discretion, where they will not be held accountable. So now, can you stake your integrity on this election?
Rufai, if these provisions, this 2026 Electoral Act, the provisions that I have identified are not repealed immediately, I want to say that the integrity of the 2027 election will be in flames.
You just heard Rufai Oseni ask the question, can we count on the people we have given so much power over our votes? And Mike Igini, a man who spent years inside INEC as a commissioner, what he said next should worry every single Nigerian. Because according to him, the laws that are supposed to protect your votes in 2027 have already been compromised. 3 specific sections, 3 dangerous loopholes, and if the National Assembly does not fix them now before 2027, your votes may not count. Before I show you what Mike Igini said, let me show you the simple version of what is happening so you understand everything clearly. Nigeria passed an Electoral Act amendment in 2026. This is the law that governs how the 2027 election will be conducted, and Mike Igini, someone who actually worked inside INEC and knows how elections work from the inside, sat down on Arise News with Rufai Oseni and Dr. Abati, and he said 3 sections of this new law are dangerous. Not his opinion, his professional assessment. He said these 3 sections create loopholes that corrupt politicians and compromised electoral officers can exploit to rig the 2027 election. Let me show you exactly what he said.
I found very shocking. You know, when I said I have not been interested in so many things because I'm so disappointed. But I decided that, look, let me go through the Electoral Act. And I found that whereas the last intervention we had here, we're discussing about Section 60, subsection 3, where they provided a proviso that will undermine the 2027 official elections. I have now found a more dangerous 3 provisions. And I put them out so that I think that Nigerians can read it. They can see it before any comment. First, let's go to Section 63. Now, Section 63, which I just discovered, they have now reintroduced something very terrible. You can see it there. That ballot paper that will be used for the 2027 election, that does not bear the official mark, the official security features of INEC, should be accepted by presiding officer. You can read it there. That where the returning officer satisfied, the word satisfied, that was contained in Section 49 of the 2010 Act that took us 20 years until 2022 to repeal, to remove, because what is the objective condition to determine what satisfies a presiding officer? A presiding officer has now been given the discretion to now accept ballot paper, notwithstanding the absence of the official mark, and to count that ballot paper. What that means is that before this election, politicians who now have access to the the security features of INEC ballot, they are going to produce their ballot papers. They are going to print their own ballot paper that have to be accepted. This is dangerous, as put in the Electoral Act. Similarly, may I show Section 138? No, 138. Let's go to Section 138. Section 138 has been one of the rigging provisions that we have cried out to be removed. As a matter of fact, you remember that in 2019, in this current republic, under Buhari was the only time that there was no Electoral Act passed. Because when we made that recommendation that this thing should be removed, this section should be removed, you remember that it was rejected. And what the section says, grant of filing petition. It says that an act or omission which may be contrary to the instruction or directive of the commission or of an officer appointed for the purpose of election, but which is not contrary to the provision of this act, shall not of itself be a ground for questioning the election. May I make a few observations here? You see, when you want to deceive people, you put it in words. Bring that section back again. You see, what they basically said, they were just short of referring to INEC regulations and guidelines, because the instruction and directive of INEC are contained in INEC regulation and guideline. They are saying that a presiding officer, an assistant presiding officer, a collation officer, a returning officer, they can abandon it. So they provided immunity there. Let's go to the last section. It will interest Nigerians to know that Section 137 now says that all those categories of individuals, I think the other time I provided you what we call a pyramid. All the categories that we have just mentioned, presiding officer, returning officer, it says that where the petition, that's anybody go to petition now, to go to file a petition, complains of the conduct of an electoral officer, a presiding officer, returning officer, it shall not be necessary to join such officer. That is those who have disobeyed to follow INEC instruction and guideline. That it shall not be necessary to bring them to the commission. That was why, remember in 2019, in 2023 and previous elections, you'll find that because INEC has been joined, You are saying that the people who rig election, presiding officer who actually were the maker of the document, you said because you have invited, you have joined INEC as a respondent, it shall not be necessary to bring them to the tribunal. Meanwhile, the courts have always complained about what we call dumping of documents, that petitioners should come and call for oral evidence. To deal with that, under section 137, in the 2022 Act, a new law was put in there, Dr. Abati. As we speak, this provision that I have outlined, particularly, it means that at the level of the balloting, it has been sabotaged. To the extent that ballot papers, you cannot going to have ballot box stuffing, people are going to produce their ballot papers.
Now, let me break down the 3 sections Mike Igini is talking about so you fully understand what he's saying, because these are legal sections and you need to understand them very well. Section 63, in simple terms, someone can now print fake ballot papers at home. The presiding officer has the power to accept them, and under this law, he cannot be punished for it. Think about it like this. Imagine if someone printed fake naira notes and the bank teller had the power to accept them as real with zero consequence. That is section 63 for you. Section 138, if a presiding officer deliberately breaks the rule to help a candidate win, this law protects them. They cannot be personally prosecuted. Section 137, even if you know exactly who rigged the election, this law makes it very difficult to drag that specific person into court and hold them responsible. So in summary, we have 3 sections, 1 purpose: protecting the people doing the rigging. And this is coming from someone who worked inside INEC and knows exactly how these things work in practice. Now, here is his full response to Rufai Oseni's question about whether we can count on the people who are managing these laws.
Real quickly, it looks as though this law, as we speak today, is designed in such a way that the integrity of INEC is already destroyed leading up to this election. And it's a law that has been made to favor the political class, certain people in the political class. And with a law that constantly gives the presiding officers the power of discretion, where they will not be held accountable, our country is slipping into an abyss. The first question I'd like to ask you is, can you stake your money on the 2027 election? Because you've talked about this, I'm not sure INEC will go back and will get some amendment by the National Assembly. You know how much time it cost us to get this out? So probably be it. So now, can you stake your integrity on these elections? That's number 1. Number 2 will be the case of the presiding officers. Correct me if I'm wrong, which they normally filter in even from influences with the political class. There is no proper vetting, there is no proper understanding, and even with easy money, they can be swayed. So when we put such powers in the hands of people that we cannot hold accountable, it's not a big indictment on the election process.
Rufai, if these provisions, this 2026 Electoral Act, the provisions that I have identified are not repealed immediately, I want to say that the integrity of the 2027 election will be in flames. I say this because of my practical experience for 10 years and not 10 days of what I witness. Good laws, good processes that are not manned by men and women of integrity will not take a country anywhere. But inadequate law, inadequate process and procedure, manned by people who are committed to the ideal of democracy, will take a country somewhere. Election period is the moment when the integrity of institutions of states, particularly those who are responsible for the management of election, because election is a period for the renewal of the journey of a society, for the renewal of policies. And so when you have, and you still have enough time to change this, and you fail to change it, it means that we have decided as a people to do the wrong thing. Because law is not only an instrument of distributive instrument, but it's an expression of our collective values. If our values is to say that we should be rigging elections, then it's unfortunate, because what gives legitimacy to those who in authority to exercise power is legitimate authority conferred on them by way of authorization, which enable them to be accountable.
Now, Dr. Abati asked the question that is on everyone's mind. Is there still time to fix this before 2027, or are we just going to go into the election with these dangerous laws and worry about it afterwards? Mike Igini's answer is very important. Please take a listen.
So the question I want to ask you is, okay, 1, do you think there's still enough time with all these bodies and scholars, including yourself, saying this Electoral Act is defective? Do we still have time to amend it, to review further, or we just run with it as it is and then worry about it after the 2027 cycle? And what will be the implication of that?
Dr. Abati, why do somebody board a plane that we know is going to crash?
You are convinced
It's
the
not
election
necessary.
is going to crash?
I am saying this because how long does it take to amend, identify isolated provisions? Section 63, that's the foundation of the election. The argument that it is what kind of work in progress? The 2022 Electoral Act is a retrogression. And that's why in my opening remarks, I made the point that what differentiates advanced democracy, a growing democracy, and a retrogressive democracy like ours is a question of rule of law. The law must be stable and be neutral. The sanctity of the law is what generates interest in electoral process and confidence. The sanctity of the law and procedure in terms of public perception of the institutions of states, that is what is required. Dr. Abati, you asked a question. What would my advice to Mr. President the last time I came here? And I said, Mr. President, having regard to the role you have played before, and that this piece of there was a bill, let them go thoroughly. I'm not too sure whether people have read this or whether it was the court of transition that became a problem. The last one here is this. When I talk about judiciary, it's the fact that the cases we have in court today are completely unnecessary because Section 83, just like Decree number 13, Section 32 of 1983, that barred the courts from entertaining any matters. Dr. Abati, it was my colleague who have an unregistered body to went to truncate June 12. How can the other court to maintain status quo become order to remove antebellum?
Or the one man called it antebellum.
Antebellum, all right?
Antebellum.
Right. So how do we explain that the order to maintain status quo led to the removal of status quo?
Of status quo. Removal.
Okay.
Do you think that word does not have meaning?
Yes. All right.
Maintain.
Remove.
What are we saying here?
INEC chairman,
Very
professor of law.
points.
Finally.
Professor of law.
Very profound
Finally.
points. Yes.
I must say this
Just
here.
10 seconds,
Yes.
please.
Democracy is what we fought for. Democracy has no place, will not survive in the soil of absolutism. We must work hard to ensure that this democracy survive. And at the heart of that is my constituency. I am making appeal to them that the institution of democracy will have no hopeful future if there is no opposition. That is what guarantees democracy.
Let me be straight with you. What Mike Igini is describing is not speculation. He was inside INEC, he knows how elections work, he knows where the weak points are, and he's saying these 3 sections of the Electoral Act have created weak points that corrupt politicians can walk straight through. The National Assembly needs to repeal these actions before 2027. But here is the honest question: who is in the National Assembly right now? Because APC controls the majority, so the same party that benefits most from these loopholes is the same party that has to vote to close them. 2 questions for the comments. 1. Do you believe the National Assembly will fix this problem before 2027? 2. If they do not fix it, do you believe the 2027 election can still be free and fair? Let me know in the comments. So that's the full breakdown. 3 dangerous sections in Nigeria's Electoral Act. Section 33, fake ballot papers can be accepted. Section 138, electoral officers cannot be held accountable. Section 137, you cannot drag the actual riggers to court. Well, Mike Igini has sounded the alarm. Now the question is anyone listening? If you enjoyed this breakdown, please do well to like this video and make sure you share with others. Let's keep everyone informed, and don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you never miss my next update. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.